All right, so here we are in week 7. And at this point, it's a little interesting because of the template, right? So the template then makes all of our sites unique, but also makes us individually have to figure out for our selected template what that looks like. And I've walked you through what I wanted you to do for week 6 for getting to know that template. So all that work should now help you do what we're doing here. And on the video that I left you with last time where I was building, I still hadn't actually pushed my code up to my GitHub.io page. I did that this morning, and because I just wanted to do a little more look at it. So this week we're going to switch from doing lecture related to the template to actually bringing back some more topics. And I'm actually going to walk you through what I talked about last time, which is for my template is how to create a new page. So your template, if it is a static file, physical file, site, which means it has a file for each menu, that's the way ultimately, even if you chose what I did, again I'll show you this. So I chose a template that has a, I don't know if I would say it's strictly a SPA, a single page application, because I wouldn't call this an application, I'd call this a site, but we still refer to them as SPAs. Okay, so if you want to look that term up, single page application. Oh, it's just because evidently there's a lot of single page applications, what these are, right? And let's see, Wikipedia probably is a good place to start on this, right? Where they talk about having really basically just one page that represents the entire site, right? Now this is why I say I don't know if I'd refer to this, but in the sense that you only have one page here and it's called the index page, and that when you roll over the other, what we consider as a traditional menu, all it's doing is it's taking you to a link or an anchor link within that same page. Okay, and what I want you to do is, if you have selected, as I have, this idea of a single page, right? So you can tell, and you're going to see me do this next. If you click on the menu and you actually can see a different page, that means you don't have a single page application, right? But it's still good to know, because now, and you're going to see this in the content of this week, is I'm actually going to, it's time for you to decide on your topic of your site, right? So we're getting there and we'll talk about images, but for today, what I really want to just show you is how to create a new page. Now again, your site might already have one set up. I would tell you, don't start building this site out until you've thought through some of the things that I'm going to talk about here and next week, just because there are things that you can do to this beginning page or this beginning site that would make it easier for you, okay, as you build out. But you know, either way, you're going to learn how to do this stuff. Okay, so just to complete, so you have a lecture on, and I did search around a bit here, and I'm going to have you do an hour of this. And really, what I really like about this is I've watched this guy before, and he does a really good job of covering the basics. And I think when you talk about search engine optimization, which is really making your site optimized for search engines to rank you higher or more relevant than your competitors or just people in general. There's so much information out there about how, and if you ever see, you know, how to game Google, don't do it. So really you want to do just having some of these basics down. So here's what I want you to do is I want you to create a new file in your lectures and your private repo, call it CEOMD, and then take notes on this. Okay, so that's the lecture. And then for the current topics for this week, I want you to, and I've given you a beginning search on front-end frameworks. So here's the search results from, you know, just looking at front-end frameworks. Oh, it should be 2018. Okay, I'll fix that. So this is a good list. So I want you to choose one of these. Don't choose Bootstrap. There's many out here. choose one of these or more, go search for some other ones. Everybody needs to select a different one. There's more than one write-up here about, and you could just search frameworks, right? So you could just do frameworks, and you don't even have to date it. You can just go look at them. You do want something that's that is still being used. And here's a nice article. I've read this article on Free Code Camp, which is a great site. So find a front-end framework you're interested in, and post that, right? And don't use Bootstrap. I've said that before, right? And because I just want you to know some of these other frameworks that are out there. Okay, so the most of the content here is really going to be covering, right, this hands-on, this idea of what I want you to do with creating this new page and me walking you through it on mine. So I have mine. I'm going to make sure I have my index page, and that's the other thing, is because now you have this template directory. You just have to make sure which file you're working in, right? So what I'm going to do too is I'm actually going to come over here and I'm going to go, okay, so I know that I have this menu, right? And right now this menu, this nav bar, and I can see, right? So I can see here it's got some targets, it's got some classes, which is all bootstrappy things, which is cool, right? And then if I come down a little further, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go, right? So in this case, I have some LIs, so in an unordered list inside of a div, I have some LIs, and the href is actually, and when you see something like this, when you see pound and then a name, that actually is a sublink within here, within the same page, an anchor link. It could be to another page if it's fully qualified with that page, but in this case, we could go down and find where that is. ID, I think this would be it right here. Container, because I believe now, and this is a little bit newer, let me just make sure, features, right? So what I can see here, and again, this is my template. Your template's going to be different, but I'm just giving you an idea of how to look for it, right? So here's download. So these are then linked to, because there's various ways to do these anchors, but in this case, the template is actually linking to an ID. What I'm going to do is, instead of linking to the same page, there's two things I'm going to do. First, I'm going to look at this page and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not going to want all this content. I really only need this main page here. And then I might want, another subdivider, and then I'd only want the footer, right? So the footer. So everything else between that. So by the way, on my design, I actually could use this in another page in a little bit, or in the next week or so that I can show you this as one of my, where this is, I would have that page. As a matter of fact, depending on how far we get, I can show you how I'm doing this here, right? So one thing I'd want to do is get rid of most of this content, and I'm going to get rid of all this. Now the question is, how do I know what content that is, right? And actually, we'll probably want to keep that one. Yeah, so I think I'll get rid of this one too. Now why is that? Because this one has got your normal end of page stuff, which is linking to your social media links. So those make sense. So I want to keep this section. So now how do I know that? And I showed you last time, right, about how to inspect so you can see where these things are at. So if I pull this down again, right, I'm going to do inspect, and then I'm going to see that, oh, okay, that's part of a section. Okay, so there's a section called contacts. Okay, cool. And then there's a footer, and then there's another section called, and this is the one I'd probably want to get rid of, the CTA, the features, right? So I'm going to get rid of that one. And then let's see here. Yeah, I don't need that one. So I'm going to go through and then modify, right, and get rid of everything but this beginning. Now, what's the beginning section, right? So is it the downloads? Let's just, again, this is where learning how to use the development tools is really handy. So I need the masthead, which makes sense, right? And then let's see, downloads, where's that at? Oh, yeah, I don't, so this is where I could actually, after this header, delete some stuff, right? So it's moving between your code and DevTools to figure this out. So now I can see this class called container. Let me go and show you. Let's see, that's all my menu stuff. So here's that masthead. That's that I do want that. And then here, okay. So actually, and this is where it's, it'll feel a little weird to get rid of a lot of this stuff, right? But that's also why I wanted you to, and I'm talking and doing here. So I'm going to slow down just a minute. And I'm going to actually go ahead and delete, right? So if I delete that, I've deleted a couple of sections, and I can come back over here and refresh and see, oh yeah, see, I got rid of that. So now I actually only have one more section to get rid of, right? So what I could do here is I'm like, okay, there's that. And picture CTA, this is the only one. So really, sorry, don't go too fast. I want to keep the footer. I want to keep the contact. It's the CTA. Okay, so boom, I get rid of that one. Now I could have also commented them out. That'd been the other way, right? So there. So now I have my index page that really represents, right now, by the way, we're looking at it this way. So if I get rid of my, right, so there's my full menu. And by the way, we haven't talked about this yet, is that the idea of sliding your browser either back and forth, or right when you're in inspect, you can also change to where you're looking at this thing in different cell phone and responsive sizes, so you can see what it looks like here. And these are great because all websites need to be mobile friendly these days. That's just the way it is. So now that I have that, right, I'm like, good, yep, right? So now that's still just one page, right? So now I'm just going to, and by the way, I don't want you to do all the pages yet. I just want to show you so you have the idea how you could create another, and again, your site may already have this set up. So it's just good to understand the difference, right? So, and by the way, because I've deleted those sections, these now have nowhere to go. So, okay, now that one did because the contact was at the end. So that's probably one I'd want to keep on all of my pages. But downloads is gone. If I click here, it should be taking me to the top, and that's something I can fix later. So then I can just get rid of those anchors in my URL, and then I'm here. Okay, so I just want to show you this, but I want to warn you, just give you the heads up, don't build out your menu yet. I'm just giving you kind of how to go through and figure out, now that we've done this, gotten rid of things we don't want, we only have an index page. And again, you may have a few other pages here. That's okay. That's the title. We can change that. You'll have to change that later, right? So, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to go up, and now that I have this index file the way I want it, right? And this is, I'm going to do a save as in here. And again, remember, I'm just giving you examples here. I'm going to call it a subpage, right? Cool. Right. So now I have now a subpage looks exactly like that index page, which is why I'm saying don't do this until you have your menu the way you want it, which is something we're doing as of Thursday. But the more work you do in this template, the easier it gets. So now I'm going to go down here, right? So I'm going to say, just for the purposes of this subpage. Now, this is something later you're going to end up changing to be part of your menu. But for today, for a single page app, I remember the idea I talked about is the anchor. Now I'm actually going to link to a physical page. And so the page I'm going to reference is sub page. And my editor here is trying to help me. Thank you, VS Code, right? Yep, that's what I want. So in this case now and this is really, now look what I did. I actually ended up changing this in the sub page, which is fine. And we could talk about, and I see I have some JS trigger stuff, which is triggering some design UI stuff here. But it was really, and that's okay, this is why I'm saying don't build it out yet. It was really in the index page that I probably would have done this. And this is the part I want you to start understanding, because as I've shown students this over the course of doing this class, is that I rushed through this part much too quickly and students didn't get it. So when you have a file that represents a page, right, you have to end up changing each page to reflect the menu design that you want, or the menu. So in this case, this was the index page, and I changed on the sub page. And this is why I'm saying we're not going to build this out until you definitely select the topic, and then we build our menus out. And I would only build it out on the index page, and then from that page copy it into some sub pages that you would name per your page topic. But just to complete here, I'll do it here, and I'll call it sub page. Now that's just the name. Oh, sorry, that's the link. So I actually, and that's important, href. So href is, in this case, is linking, it's referencing an actual page. Okay, and so what I'd want to do here is say sub page. Sub page. Sorry. Now notice here too, even here I was inconsistent, so I'd want to be very consistent. But again, by the way, if you don't have this auto save turned on, you want to do that, because this is what I just did is much easier with auto save. So I'm going to come back over here, I'm going to refresh. So what can I see? I can see my subpage. Now the question is, if I click on my subpage, it looks the same, but the URL, when you look up here, indicates it's a new page, right? So I want you to just understand how to build a new page. I don't want you to build them all, but I want you to understand also is how to now look at this design and figure out what you want. So what I'm going to do is actually just kind of play around until I get to the place that I'm actually building out, is maybe on my sub page, right? On this sub page, what I would do is go back and look at the code, some of the code I deleted, to actually have that main page be, actually I'll do it with you. So, you know, just because it's good. So what was it that I really liked? So on, I was telling you about this earlier, on that CTA, and it was that design right here, right? So one thing I could do is and I'm going back to the original, and this is why it's helpful to have it. So on that, my sub page, after my navigation, after my masthead, right? Oh, I'm going to have to play with my names a little bit here. Primary contact, because it's actually up in the header, and these are sections that do this. So I'd have to actually play with this. It'd be okay. I'll just show you, and I'll have to play with it, but I'll just show you. Let's say I wanted to bring that back on my sub page, just that one section. So now I'd come back over here. I'm on that sub page, but I'm going to go back to my index page, refresh. There's nothing I changed on the index page, but on my sub page, then I see that section that I got rid of. And what I will do is play around with how to place this actually as this first math. And it shouldn't be that hard. Looks like I have a section CTA, so I'd have to figure out if there's because this is a header, right? So in this case, could I just, so this is where you play. If you play around, and I know it may sound weird to say playing around, but it's actually a lot of what you're doing when you're doing this stuff, right? So the main thing I want you to get here is just understanding your own site and how you can then take the base template and start customizing it. And all I've shown you today is how to link physical pages if you ended up starting with a single page app, which many of these templates are. And you could even start thinking about changing some of this content on this index page. Now, by the way, I'd only do it on the index page, right? At this point, because I've just shown you the other one as a way to kind of start thinking about how getting started. So let me just make those last two just so you can see that as well. So for me, right, because I'm going to show you later how I built an example site for 82 before, and I've just decided this semester I'm going to build one for this since I'm giving that option, right? So then I have the menu, right? So then I would end up changing this later, and then I could look at changing this content right here, right? Because this is the content in the middle, all right? And just for now, blah, 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 right? So if I do that, see, this is this is so funny because I just did it again, and this is how easy it is, and this is why it's important to keep, and actually you'll see this now you can see this here, right, is I accidentally changed it here, and that's why you want to this, just the more you work with this, the more you get used to this idea. And you know, the last thing I will leave you with is the way we're doing this is actually what we call a little bit of old school. The new way you build sites is not really, although there are many still out there that do a physical file for each page, and there's actually search engine optimization why you'd want to do that still, but typically there's a build process, and you have something called routes that handle each of these that look like what we call a page. But I want for this project for you to get this experience, because as you move through this course and on to others, you're going to get other examples of how to build pages, but I'm going to tell you, you will most likely, somebody will ask you either in a job or personally to update their site, and understanding how these old style sites are set up is just a good place to have some knowledge and a good starting point for our class. Okay, so that probably went a little longer, but again, hopefully you got what you needed. But the key is too, if you're not understanding any of this, then you need to be coming to see me so we can help you figure out how you can make this site your own. All right, have a great one, and I'll talk to you later.